This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Welcome to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, where in a single moment you can recognize your brilliance and change your life. This is a transformational hour that covers an array of topics that demonstrate how individuals use their native talents, as shown in their name, to look at the ordinary in extraordinary ways. Albert Einstein once said that everybody is a genius. Why would one of the smartest people on the planet declare that everyone is a genius unless he knew that to be true? I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and in each weekly show, you'll hear the fascinating ways other people discovered the genius in them and what they were able to accomplish. At the end of each show, you'll hear clues on how you can recognize your own innate genius. All over the world, people have many, many diverse interests. And in that vein, people have written to our show's producers and asked about different occupations and areas of life that have highly interested them. People want to know how highly successful people have managed to achieve their genius mindset by utilizing the gifts that are seen in their name by using namology science. Some of the letters asked, how does someone express their creative talents, and how does someone share those gifts with others in a way that all benefit? Our expert tonight is Bernard MORIN, who has done the most remarkable job sharing his multiple talents with others, as he is a shaman, a playwright, an artist, and so much more. Bernard has an unusual background because he became aware at a very young age that the world was not entirely as it appeared. Some of that awareness was because of nightmarish events he had as a UFO abductee. These abductions started for him at a very young age and continued well into the first few decades of his life. Initially, his childhood fear was that he was insane, and therefore he tried to suppress all the memory of it. It felt much more important to fit in, to have friends, and to be accepted. However, later as an adult, he realized that these experiences were, in fact, gifts that came to him too early to comprehend in his young life. In the relative safety of his early 20s, he began to observe the physical world around him for any clues that would make sense of those early experiences. He found himself drawn to people with particular physical difficulties and abnormalities. His observations subsequently led him to identify patterns that would reveal histories of both emotional and spiritual trauma. Additionally, he found that he could intuit a person's issues across the street, then at great distances, as if they were right in front of him. This ability led him to question commonly held beliefs about time, space, and question assumptions about illnesses and disabilities. He started to amass a body of observations that still seemed out of step with the world. Bernard felt like a foreigner on the planet. In his mid-20s, he entered the world of advertising and stayed immersed there for a period of almost 20 years. However, in 1988, life and eventually his calling proceeded to wake him up. He was introduced first to traditional Reiki, then to a very gifted healer, the late Eleanor Moore in New Hampshire. And Eleanor's experiences with UFOs and healing in particular served to confirm his own experiences and awarenesses. He finally felt that his early life's experiences had been ratified. He hadn't been crazy after all. His thirst for further understanding led him to shamanism in 1989. Bernard's formal introduction was with the Foundation of Shamanic Studies. During the second course with the Foundation, he recognized that he'd been seeing and journeying since very early childhood, but had managed to suppress it as white noise, mostly out of fear of insanity. Subsequent to this revelation, there followed a trip of self-discovery to witness the work of other shamans in Ecuador in 1995. Though choosing not to be a participant in the use of a sacred psychotropic drug available during that journey, he soon realized that he was having the same visions and experiences which were occurring to others who had ingested the drug. It was a revelation for him. Clearly, these altered state journeys were available without the use of drugs, and that he could easily envision other people's dreams and experiences at will. In 1992, Bernard left advertising and started to teach and share his knowledge with others. He now teaches only a few times a year, but because of his abilities, he's able to conduct his individual healing sessions by telephone with anyone in the world. Bernard currently resides in a small town in Canada in the province of Ontario. His name indicates that he has fairness issues. In other words, he wants the world to be fair. His name also indicates that he's quite competitive and desires to be his best at all time. He uses competition to prove his own abilities. Bernard's name also indicates that he's a detective and loves to know the background story of people around him, which I feel from looking at the name is what's really helped him with his current profession. Welcome to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You radio show, Bernard.
Thank you, Sharon. Nice to be here.
I want to know really quickly the name or what it is that you're currently working on. What's your current project that you're doing?
I'm currently working to see if I can affect DNA coding in the body. If it's possible to reverse DNA coded propensity so that people who are born with illnesses that appear to have no known resolution under traditional medicine can actually be shifted energetically. So that's the current one. I work mostly with myself on that and a couple of friends, but it will take a while to perfect.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. Stay tuned to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You. After the break, we'll find out how a shaman sees and senses the world differently than the rest of us, and more about the DNA.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying.
Welcome back. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and you're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You. Our guest tonight is Bernard MORIN. Bernard, please describe to us how a shaman sees the world versus how a non-shaman would see the world.
That's a very good question and a very big one. We kind of live, bipolar lives because on one level, we have a life to live. We have to buy groceries, make food, pay bills, do all that. But the second level of it is, and it comes as an invitation to lift out of the body, and that is to see energetically what is moving in the world and how to move that around, or how to really envision or encapsulate an issue, an emotional issue for something or someone, much as, I guess, a cloud or cigarette smoke or something. It has that kind of shape to it, and then it can be manipulated. It can be changed and made less toxic, or it can be revealed for what it is inside. So we see things in energy doesn't really totally describe it, but we see it much more as a movement of air. But that air, wow, this is hard. It's like water on a glass window. You know how it distorts the image when it's pouring down? That's kind of what the energy looks like for me. So as an instance, I just spent some time in Asheville, and Asheville was in the center. Asheville, North Carolina was in the center of several forest fires, and the smoke was circulating up and through Asheville, which made it very difficult to breathe and almost impossible to go outside. And I thought, okay, why am I here? And as I questioned that within myself, I could feel myself lifting out of my body slightly, which meant this is where the work is. And I decided the best thing to do was bring rain in, because it is a drought area. And then I had to think about, where is it wisest to bring rain in? Do I steal it from another area locally? Do I go farther out to where weather originates? Is that on the jet stream, or is that on the West Coast? And I determined it would, for that area, it would have to have been the West Coast off California. So I pulled in a series of storms that were about 2 days apart, but not heavy, heavy downpours that would cause flooding, but light enough so the ground could accept it and use it and absorb it, and then another wave would come in. And in the middle of doing that, you feel this energy come through your body that is very affirming for what you're doing. And I can't tell you, it's like having wind beneath the wings as you fly. It's a really a lovely feeling, but it always has to be done with respect for natural order. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so you're looking at the world differently. It's interesting that you mentioned the weather because J.J. Dewey, who's a very prolific author, has literally written a ton of information on how a group consciousness or thoughts affect weather patterns. And
right.
When I was in Thailand, they mentioned there, I noticed that there were no fire departments. And the lady I was studying with there said, we don't have a need for fire departments because we don't have fires. And I went to an event where different kites were being put up because it was a big event with all these kites everywhere. And some of them would fall back to the earth and start a small fire. And regardless whether it fell in a tree or on the ground, it would evaporate and it would burn itself out immediately. And nobody would rush over and put water on it. So the fact that you were stating that you pulled in the rain, I mean, I found that really fascinating because it ties in with what J.J. Dewey's doing and how Thailand, that whole community, believes.
That's right. And native shaman can summon all kinds of weather if it's for a high purpose. So if anyone has read Rolling Thunder by, I think, Dan Boyd, he talks about how Rolling Thunder was able to bring a tornado up to the door of a prison where a young Native man was being held in order to release him. He didn't have to use it in that fashion. He just said, look, if you don't hand him over, I'm going to send this through the building. So weather responds to thought and group thought and to mass consciousness. I think it's something that we've probably not quite understood in the depth that we can. And it's not something I ever fool with. I used to joke and say, okay, I don't do barbecues and weddings, but if it's life threatening and if there's a huge damage possible for the environment, then I act. I respond to it. I ask myself, is this where I'm supposed to be working? I feel the energy lifting me out of my body, and then I know that's how I work.
So how did becoming a shaman change your life?
I think the biggest way it changed was it ratified the early part of my life because I always had trouble focusing. I was a child who we would now say was ADD. I had a lot of trouble reading for any length of time. I had to study in 20-minute periods because my brain kept skipping out, and it didn't occur to me until much later as an adult that isn't what I was supposed to be learning. But there's this large need to fit in, and of course I had parents who had never had higher education, so it was considered a great privilege and an expectation that I should go through that way. But as soon as I hit this work, it was like within me just a massive aha. It's like, this is who you are. I still keep it under wraps, meaning I don't want to intimidate people with it, because once they realize you're capable of seeing things in a different way, they become a little uncomfortable, much like they're standing there in their underwear. And I don't want that. So I do keep it under, and that's why I like working on the phone with people, because we don't have to present each other to each other rather formally, but it can be done on the phone with far more efficiently actually than it would be in person. So it's changed my life a lot.
I've heard a lot of people that have had sessions with you, and they are most pleased. So I'm really curious what a session looks like and what can people expect in a session from you.
When someone books a session with me, it's really a commitment to work with me in the energy. And so from the moment they actually make the booking, even though the session itself may not take place for a couple of weeks, I'm with them in the energy. In other words, they're pulled into this envelope of energy in which enormous change is possible. So for the couple of weeks or days leading into the session, someone will have an enhanced dream life. or they will feel a surge of energy, or magical things will start happening around them, such as animal behavior. Unusual animal behavior is very common. Birds and butterflies and wolves and deer and owls and all these animal hawks will start appearing in one's life. And as we move into the session itself, it's almost as if the majority of the work that needed to be done was prepped in that period, so that when we are speaking on the phone, it can come to a conclusion so that someone isn't left in some form of chaos. It's a large move within the body of the session. I then follow that session for 2 weeks, so it comes to a point of closure, because there aren't other people really doing this work. You do need to offer support to people. So in the course of the session, it starts with a conversation, and someone simply needs to give me 3 or 5 words. I'll say, "Have you had any dreams?" And they'll start. And as soon as I feel the lift, I know I've got the avenue to run down. So I visually see what their dream is, what they're going, what's around them energetically. I have a capture of their energy field, of the person they are, and then around that, like movies, I can get to see their history, what they're going, and what has been a problem. And if a problem presents itself, it will appear very often as the figure of someone behind them or down the road. And I would say, "Do you feel anybody around you?" And they'll say, "Well, no." And I said, "Okay, well, this is a man, and he's trying to say something," and boom, the movement will start within them. Or I see karmic history that is affecting their life now, and I'm able to talk about that. So a lot of a shaman's job is to cultivate tone so the energy can run smoothly through your voice and vibrate through the person you're dealing with, so that the change is graceful and has ease and is not in any way traumatic. It's all resolution based and warm.
So you're saying part of the shaman's job. Does that mean your sessions appear like other shamans also sessions, or is yours different in some way?
I can't tell. Most of the shaman I've ever come in contact with have been based in native practice, and I don't do a cultural practice in that respect. This is just my version of it, and I often tell people we all have this in us. It's all there. I've just had a bit more mileage in it than others, but I don't do the ritual. Now, I know that many shamans see energy, and they see the field, and they see the history. Whether we see it the same way is a very difficult thing to determine.
Okay.
So I wouldn't know for sure.
So I've been privileged to get an experience one of your workshops as you guided us in using our imaginations to be more creative. Could you describe to us the importance of using our imagination, and possibly when our imagination might get in our way?
Imagination is used when your left brain, your linear brain, your logical brain gets in the way of an experience. So a brain will, that part of your brain will come in and say, "Okay, is this really happening? I mean, is that real? Or are you just, what is this?" The best part of shamanism comes out of your right brain. So most often I ask people to use imagination to jumpstart past the left side of the brain, so that they move quickly into the right side of the brain, and that's all it takes is a little jump. Now, there are people, usually they're men, who are so left brain bound that they don't think they're having an experience. And I always take great joy in these people, because I can tell by the energy above them that they're having it. It's just that their left brain won't give it to them in a way in which they recognize. And those people usually call me within a few days saying, "Oh my God, you won't believe what's happened. It's just all this is happening." It's just that their brain was in the way before. So the role of imagination is to skip past that left brain part.
Okay. I find that fascinating when you're talking about both the left and the right side of the brain, because as so many years of a teacher, I've realized that people learn very differently depending on which side of the brain is dominant. Please stay tuned to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You. After the break, we'll find out about some of the different ways that Bernard has assisted people heal.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we'll weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying.
Welcome back. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and you're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You. Our guest tonight is Bernard MORIN, who can be reached via his website, inthenameofhealing.ca, standing for Canada. You've been working now for over 40 years, Bernard, observing how behavior choices can affect our physical bodies. Could you give us some examples of what you've seen?
I have to go back to the first person that really taught me what I was looking at. And I was living in London, England at the time at a five-way intersection, and there was a bag lady who every day stood out in one of the concrete projections that separated the lanes. And she had her fist raised, and she was yelling and shaking her fist at the traffic every day. And she had, on the other hand, a shopping bag always filled with the same things. And my bus stop was right across the street from where I was living, and just a few yards from her. And she mesmerized me, because I wondered at a certain point, what must it be like to be her? Like, what is it like to be in her body? And so I decided that if I could take on her body posture, maybe I would learn something. So I mimicked her. I was out of her vision. I mimicked her body posture and got home that night and stood in front of the mirror and got the posture. And then I walked around the room like that for 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden, I knew what had happened to her, that she had been raised in a family with a number of children. Father was quite an authoritarian, and his belief was that children should be seen and not heard. And she was really kind of beaten down as a child and had this enormous anger about it. And so there she was, out raising her fist and being angry with something that couldn't talk back. Occasionally she'd get the odd horn from a passing motorist, but it just allowed her to sort of, go into it deeper. And I realized her whole posture was kind of hunched forward and tight, and it was tight around her heart. It was like she was protecting her heart. And as that progressed, I started noticing anyone who walked in an unusual fashion. I would mimic them from a distance and could figure out exactly what had happened to them just by taking on the body posture. So that's how it all started initially, and it developed into a way of reading the body, which progressed for me for a couple of decades until I met Eleanor Moore. But I also realized that if I'm talking to someone, that my right hand would want to go to a certain part on their shoulder, and if I had permission to touch somebody there, their whole body would relax and unravel. And I thought, okay, my hands are more intelligent than my brain here. My real intelligence is in my hand. If I just let my hand tell me where to work, then that will reveal what I need to know or do what is needed. I also discovered that my eyes tell me where to work. So I'll find myself staring at someone and not realize I'm staring at them. And it's like I'm busy thinking on something and realize, okay, wait a minute, you're staring at this person. What is it about this person that is taking your attention? And that's where either healing is needed or where I can learn.
Do you ever, when you're doing that and you're pulled in because you realize that you're staring on somebody, ask permission to heal them even though they're not consciously aware?
I always ask that permission of their spirit. And I started addressing their spirit because consciously they may be uncomfortable because I'm a stranger, but their spirit would know. So I asked the spirit if it's appropriate or right for me to send energy to this person who doesn't know me at all and doesn't know what's happening particularly, but I trust that they will get what they need.
You also paint, and those paintings sell. So how does that relate to your shamanic journey? Are they connected in any way?
Yes. You're very sharp. I started painting with a very definite idea that behind my paintings would be an energy that would cause healing for the right people that looked at them. So I never really created art for anyone else. It was always that, and very often, and most often, it just would fly out of my unconscious, and I would be painting and getting lost in 15 layers of paint and stand back and say, okay, what is that? What is it about? And there was one very strong moment. This was when I was living in Newfoundland, when I did a piece, and I thought, gee, I wonder what that's about. What has been bothering me lately that may be a symbol of? And what had been bothering me is that all wars seem to be started by men. And I thought, and the aggression in the world is really promulgated by men. And in most cases, those men are nothing without women. And I thought, who supports the women? Where does that come from? And the painting is all about that. And I had just put it on the wall in the studio and was standing back, and it was open to the public, and this Iranian doctor and his wife and 2 children walked in. And he stood in front of it for almost 5 minutes, and he turned to me and he said, "That's about women." And I thought, it's finished. So that's what I'm doing. And my favorite was, because it's abstract, I had people visiting there, and they said, "Oh, we'd like to see your artwork." So I took them downstairs, and the one woman said, "Oh, I've never really understood abstract art. I just don't get it at all." Right? And then she stood in front of one. She said, "But I like that." And I said, "Go look at the title." And the title was, "I Like That." And I said, "So what don't you get?" Her unconscious was getting it. Her left brain wasn't letting it happen because it had to make, a certain amount of sense. So it's always been a tool of expression there. In fact, I'm about to sell a bunch of my work because I'm inundated. I saw the place I had in Newfoundland, I had to empty all my paintings, so I'm swamped with paintings right now. But they only go to people who are affected by them, which is what I like. People will stand in front of them and say, "Oh my God, what's that about?" or "Who painted that?" or whatever, and then I know it's speaking to them.
You asked the question, so who supports the women? Did you ever come up with an answer for that?
The answer really is other women. Really, and spirit, supports the women. But I mean, we're living in essentially a planetary patriarch, and therefore there are wars, and there are suppression of people, and it's dominated by a lot of greed, and that, in my mind, is not going to change until women have more say in how the world runs. So you notice that in most matriarchies, there isn't that problem, and there are matriarchies, so they don't have problems of war. So it seems that other women are the ones who support women, and they tend to cope with the men. There are obviously exceptions, and I'm making grand generalizations, but that's what I discovered.
I think it's rare for us to find a society today that is a matriarchal type of society. And I ran across one of the tribes while traveling in China that was a matriarchal society, which just fascinated me no end, because it was very different than how our culture is here in North America. Bernard, I've met people you have helped, and you've helped them develop their skills, and those people with their own skills are most impressive. And one of them that comes to my mind is the policeman there in Canada that you helped, and how he's using his intuitive skills in his job. So could you tell us about how you help somebody like that develop their skills, and what you feel like your role is with that?
You're talking about Wayne Adam, and Wayne's skills had been burgeoning, and he initially contacted me because he wanted to do a Reiki class with me, and I hadn't had one planned, and of course I don't teach it now. But I recommended him to a student of mine, and so he went to that class. and decided he wanted to do second level with me. And second level in Reiki, we're talking traditional Reiki here, the old system, and to me it dovetails with shamanism. There's a point where it dovetails, and they're very much similar in many aspects there. So I taught him second degree, and then we did a bit of shamanic work. He then attended a shamanic class with me, and he's, I would say, the most gifted person I've ever taught. But in the beginning, you're very unsure about what it is you're seeing or what your role is in information, and so I teach people like that things such as if you intuit or you gain some information about someone, I have them ask, okay, is this for me to know or for me to tell? Because they're two very distinct things. For you to know is so that you know, in a broader sense, who it is you're dealing with. For me to tell is it's safe to tell this person that information. And I learned that the hard way by spilling information before learning to ask that. That developed within my own experience. And then with people like Wayne, you just we have long conversations. If I feel a trend is happening in the world, or I see a movement happening, we're in what I call now the age of transparency, where it's hard to hold secrets. So WikiLeaks and Edward Snowden and many of those people are part of that same issue. I'm able to say to Wayne, okay, I'm getting this surge that's happening, and he's able to put words on it. And we share in that respect. So any of the students I have who have gifts like that should be supported know they have the right to talk and call me, and we'll just ramble on about what they're seeing. So, and not everyone's gifts are the same, so you have to identify what it is in everyone's gift that needs support.
Well, I know that two of your students came out to California. They flew out to California to help somebody that was there that was going through the dying process. And I remember the woman telling me at that time, whose mate was the one passing away, how much help that they gave that dying person. And so when we come back from the break, I would love to hear about any kind of help that the shamans may see about death more than, I want to say, the rest of us. I think that would be fascinating. So please stay tuned to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You. And after the break, we'll find out what Bernard Morin has in his name that assisted him, that you may have in your name as well, along with what we just asked him.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money in abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
What Happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and you're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You. Our guest tonight is Bernard Morin, who has taken his shamanic skills to a level where he's able to see what is occurring with someone else, regardless if they're both in the same physical locality. He then assists them in healing. Before the break, we asked how shamanic skills can assist in the dying process. So, Bernard, would you like to give us some insight on that, please?
Sure. For me, when someone is dying, it's really someone who's in the cocoon stage, and they're about to emerge as a butterfly on the other side of the veil. Now, I can go back and forth on both sides of the veil, and I'm very comfortable on both sides and have absolutely no fear of death because of that. So I'm able to speak with complete confidence with them about what is waiting on the other side. Now, sometimes their own beliefs will put a structure on that, or absolute atheists will say, well, I know we're just dead and we die and we're gone. I said, okay, well, if that's not true, do me a favor and, send me a message in a butterfly or something like that, because normally there is a something else on the other side. But when I'm working with the people who are dying, there's one exercise I do with them if they're fully conscious enough, and that is to teach them what their essence is. And I'm able to help them contact their essence without the body. In other words, who are they without the body? Because that's the part that continues. And once they've done that exercise, they're enormously relaxed. It's like, oh, and it's familiar. They know what it is, but life has a way of compounding all of that. And if I'm with them while they're dying, I'm actually on the other side holding their hand and helping them through. And I can also, if I'm not able to be with them when they pass over, I can take them on a journey and show them where they're going to be going after they die and who will meet them, and then take them back down again into the room so they have no fear of passing. And that's really been the most effective part of it.
That's most fascinating, because the Monroe Institute in Faber, Virginia, has done just a lot of research and studies on being able to train people to do that. And they do it through sound. And so it's very interesting that you're able to do it with hand holding and actually being able to stay with them. What's the basis? What's the basis of healing? In other words, what do people need to know and able to heal?
That's a really good question. For me, it's always been when you lose a sense of balance and your place in the world. When things build up and demand, or there's too much trauma or whatever, you're kind of taken away from an experience of yourself as a fully grounded, vital person. And what healing for me is, it's not curing necessarily. Healing is learning to come back to a balance that whatever life has for you is okay. It contains no fear. Healing for me is about not having fear. And able to move through that. I learned that through the AIDS crisis, working with myself at the time and deciding that, as a very wise woman once said to me, there are two things out there. One is AIDS and the other is the fear of AIDS, and I'm not sure which is more fatal. And I thought, right, well, I'm going to make sure that the fear of AIDS is not going to get me. And I had to simply address that, and that is a shaman's way. You just turn and you look the owl in the face. You look yourself in the face, really, and just say, what is so scary? How bad can that be? And not allow it to dominate or rule your life. And that's, of course, where a lot of control mechanisms come for people as well, when they won't face a fear of not being in control.
You mentioned something about the essence of self and introducing somebody to the essence of themselves. Could you elaborate on that, what you mean by that?
Some people would call that soul. I call it spirit. Soul for me is another concept, and spirit is a part of it, but it's a larger concept. Spirit is that part of you that doesn't die. So what I do is I engage them in a vision where they're lifting out of their seat if they're sitting, and I can speak through the physical issues that they're experiencing, like what does the floor feel like? What does it feel like now that you're 3 inches off the floor and you feel tingling? It's very much getting them to conjoin with me in the vision, and then we go up through the room, out of the house or the building, up into the sky, above the sky, and then we get to above clouds, and then I say, okay, you can lay down now and just float there, and then tell me how you're feeling. And that's how they learn what it is. So it's energetically sharing a vision of it with them that envelops them so that they can actually participate in it. I suspect in a way it's what hypnosis can feel like for some people, but it isn't. It's just managing to extend the vision and the energy that it takes to have that experience to include them so that I can take them to where that goes.
If you could change one thing about people's understanding or how they looked in the world because of your own experiences, what would that be?
That would be to befriend fear. Fear is the flag that's waving that you don't want to look at, that says, work over here. This is where your growth is. And don't be afraid of it. It's a flag saying this is what you have to address right now. And otherwise you're going to be spending the rest of your life dancing around it, or, compressing your being, or, tightening your being around that fear, or trying to control other people. If you just look at it saying, okay, why am I afraid of that? Is that real? A lot would change.
In your website that you have in the name of healing.ca, I would love to know what you meant by that, in the name of healing, because I happen to think names are so important. And so what was your intention when you named your website in the name of healing?
Sharon, it just came out of me. I was looking, I was trying to come up with something, and I thought, what it's about is, it's everything I do is in the name of healing. And I thought, yeah, it's a little cumbersome, but it does speak to what it is. And it just felt like the right thing to name it. And I know it's long, but people remember it. It's great.
Well, I was just fascinated by it because, with Namology Science, every name has energy that's into it and resonates to a vibration. And so when you're talking about in the name of healing, I was looking at those letters and what it all meant, and just calling something by its name is incredibly powerful. It's interesting to me, all the different experiences that you've had. And so very briefly, would you mind addressing your UFO experience?
The UFO experience started, I think, when I was about 3, but my first real memory of it was around 5 years old. But I knew to be afraid then, because it had obviously happened before, but it would happen in my sleep. And I would be unable to move except for my eyes, and this strong light would appear outside my window, and I would be terrified, of course. And the next thing I knew, I was outside of the bedroom, and I was in a space that we would now call a mothership, on a small stage with other people lined up, and only able to move my eyes, and in absolute and complete terror. It kept happening, and I didn't seem to have any control over it. But what it did tell me is, there's a lot more going on in this world than anybody's admitting to, because I couldn't have been the only person. There were these other people there. Nonetheless, as a child, and you're terrified, you think you're nuts, you think you're crazy, because no one else is having those experiences. But it taught me to always pay attention to the world around me, because there will be clues that you're missing, given the breadth of that experience. So I was very soon realizing I was seeing smoke, what looked like smoke rising off of fresh fruit, and there was what I now know is an energy field around every object, and those sorts of things. So it was the lead in, really.
I think maybe more people have those experiences, and that a lot of people could feel like, I'm the only one doing this, and so I'm not going to talk about it. Be prepared to be surprised and pleased when you experience Bernard's work, and thank you so much for being with us today, Bernard. Bernard's website
It's a pleasure.
Is in the name of healing.ca. Bernard likes to make the world a better place and has an eye for beauty, as well as being a great detective, wanting to know the background of the ones around him. That comes from having the first vowel of E in his name. So if your first vowel of E, you too wish to make the world a more beautiful place and love to know people's backgrounds. Do you know where your genius lies? I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, host of the radio show Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, which can be heard every weekday at various hours right here on xzbn.net radio, an X-Zone radio station. Tune in to hear the fascinating ways other people discovered the genius in themselves and what they were able to accomplish. In each upcoming show, you'll hear clues on how you can recognize your own innate genius. Join us this week. If you wish to know more about your name and how you can discover your innate genius, go to knowthename.com. Again, that's knowthename.com.